All right. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. We are back.
Yeah.
Continuing on with our look at the triennial Torah portion. This week we are looking at Genesis chapter 30. Bereshit, chapter 30, and we will be dealing with, in this chapter, which we'll call Rachel Envied. Rachel Envied. Rachel Envied. Rachel. Okay, so we're going to go ahead without any further ado. We're going to go ahead and pull up these verses here and read the chapter in its entirety. Genesis chapter 30.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and put that up here on screen. Go ahead and read that and discuss. Go ahead, nice and loud.
And when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I am going to die." And Jacob's displeasure burned against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of Elohim, who was withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" And she said, "See, my female servant Bilhah, go into her, and let her bear for me, and let me be built up from her as well." So she gave him Bilhah, her female servant, as wife, and Jacob went into her. And Bilhah conceived, and bore Jacob a son. And Rachel said, "Elohim has rightly ruled my case, and has also heard my voice and given me a son." So she called his name Dan. And Rachel's female servant Bilhah conceived again, and bore Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, "With great wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister, and I have overcome." So she called his name Naphtali. And Leah saw that she had ceased bearing, and she took Zilpah, her female servant, and gave her to Jacob as wife. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son. And Leah said, "Fortune comes." So she called his name Gad. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. And Leah said, "I am happy, for the daughter shall call me happy." So she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat, and found love apples in the field, and brought them to his mother Leah. And Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's love apples." But she said to her, "Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's love apples too?" And Rachel said, "Therefore let him lie with you tonight for your son's love apples." And when Jacob came out of the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, "Do come in to me, for indeed I have hired you with my son's love apples." And he lay with her that night. And Elohim listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. And Leah said, "Elohim has given me my hire, because I have given my female servant to my husband." So she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and bore Jacob a sixth son. And Leah said, "Elohim has presented me with a good present. Now my husband is going to dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons." So she called his name Zebulun. And afterwards she bore a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And Elohim remembered Rachel, and Elohim listened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived, and bore a son, and said, "Elohim has taken away my reproach." So she called his name Joseph, and said, "Yahweh has added to me another son." And it came to be when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, "Send me on my way, to go my own place and to my land. Give my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go. For you yourself know my service which I have done for you." And Laban said to him, "If, please, I have found favor in your eyes, stay. For I have divined that Yahweh has blessed..." Huh?
Diligently.
Am I reading the...
I have diligently.
Oh, I'm reading the wrong version. "And please stay, for I have diligently watched that Yahweh has blessed me for your sake." And he said, "Name me your wages, and I give it." So he said to him, "You know how I have served you, and how your livestock has been with me. For the little you had before I came has increased greatly, and Yahweh has blessed you since my coming. But now, when I am to provide for my own house too..." And he said, "What do I give you?" And Jacob said, "Give me not. If you do this for me, I shall again feed and guard your flocks. Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all the black ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. And these shall be my wages, and my righteousness shall answer for me in time to come. When you come concerning my wages, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and black among the lambs, it is stolen if it is with me." And Laban said, "See, let it be according to your word." And on that day he set aside the male goats that were speckled and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had some white in it, and all the black ones among the lambs, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he put 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took for himself rods of green poplar and of the almond and chestnut trees, peeled white strips in them, and exposed the white which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters and the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink. And they conceived when they came to drink. So the flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth streaked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob separated the lambs and made the flocks face toward the streaked and all the black of the flock of Laban. But he put his own flocks by themselves, and did not put them with Laban's flock. And it came to be, whenever the strong ones of the flock conceived, that Jacob placed the rods before the eyes of the flock in the gutters, so they would conceive among the rods. But when the flocks were weak, he did not put them in, so the weak ones were Laban's, and the strong ones Jacob's. Thus the man increased very much, and had many flocks, and female and male servants, and camels and donkeys.
Okay. All right. Very good. I actually want to start in the middle, because I want to talk about the other things probably a little more than this, but I don't want to not talk about it, because it actually connects. So let's go down to verse 25. Let's start down here. 25. It's interesting when we look at the situation here with Jacob and his wives, and his life here with his wife's father that he's working for. He essentially at this point has put in his time. He did his felt like he was like in jail or something. He did his time. He lived his indentured servitude, here, right? He was an indentured servant, in every sense of the word. And so he's ready now at this point to be done. You know, he got big family now. He's got wives. He's got children. He says over here, read verse 26 again.
26. Give my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you yourself know my service, which I have done for you.
He ready I'll just want to take my kids. I want to take all my booze and my kids, and we could just be done. I put in all the work I was supposed to put in. Let's end this thing. Let's end this thing, and I'm ready to go. But Laban is like, Laban's interesting. It's funny. Someone who, people who, in this world, we have these things called mortgages, right? Where the bank buys your house for you, and then you buy your house from the bank. When you get close to the end of this thing, they want to continue their relationship with you, these people. They send you these little offers, for you to, refinance your place.
That's what they do, right? That's what they're doing to us. Every single week we get letters from the bank.
Yeah, this is what they don't want. They don't want for their relationship to end.
They want you to stay.
Even when you've had, you've had a long,
15
for their part, you've had a long, prosperous relationship with them.
They prosper a lot.
Yeah, they prosper all over the place when they get into these situations. But when it comes to time to an end, they don't want it to end. They want you to remain indebted to them. And so, Laban, he's just like these people, right? He's just like Wells Fargo and them, who they just want to suck you dry. They want to take everything you have. And so Jacob, at this point, he's ready to leave. He's ready to go. And he's like, we got to do something better than this. I got to somehow increase some more from your situation. So it's interesting when we look at now this thing that Jacob does, and I feel like this is kind of just par for the course. This is the way that these people deal with one another. But it's interesting. I want to talk about Laban for a minute, because it seems as if there's a way that he had about himself, something that's within his DNA, that he, passes on to his children. And it just so happened that that these people are also related to Jacob at the same time, and it's like they all have these things about them that causes them to be similar, where Jacob goes and he says, well, look, I'll just separate out these flock and I'll give you all these ones. And I guess maybe from looking at them, maybe there was a lot of these black ones and spotted ones, where it seems like he's getting like, the lion's share of the situation.
You guys see that? It's on the screen. Shh.
What, this?
When you're talking, yeah.
Oh, when he wants to separate them out?
We talked about that last. I'm sorry.
It's probably right here. 32. Read it. Read verse 32 right there.
32. It says, "Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all the black ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and these shall be my wages."
Yeah, so he's ready to part. He says, "You take all these, and this is what I'll pay you for these." But this thing that he does over here with this whole rod and the thing, it's like he's doing this breeding thing where he's able to distinguish the weak and the strong ones, with this. I don't know what this kind of thing that he's doing over here, but he that's been this shepherd for all these times. He's a shepherd breeder. Obviously,
Tricks up his sleeve.
he's got some things that he's able to do, that he's learned from doing it all this time, and it seems like he's able to be able to distinguish and know between the weak and the strong, and he gives he gives Laban the weak ones.
It's like
and he keeps the
he's
strong
still being a little bit underhanded.
He is, but I for whatever reason, I feel like he's the hero here at this point.
You got taken advantage.
I feel like Laban is just like I feel like he's getting his due. Laban is at this point. It's like he wants and he wants and he wants, and there's never an end to his wanting. And so, even though when we look over here at Jacob, and it seems like he's just up to his old things, maybe he is. I'm not trying to say that he isn't. But I feel like this is something that he deserves.
You don't have any mercy.
In my mind, I feel like this is something that he deserves to get. But the thing that I want to concentrate on is the fact that, even Jacob, Laban, they have this interesting relationship, this give-take relationship. And it's interesting, the way that Laban is after all of this time, why he's not able to just be satisfied with, what it is that Jacob has worked for up until this point. Like he wants more, right? The thing that he has already is not enough. And so even though when we look at, Jacob's response to this, not to judge the response, whether it's right or if it's wrong, just the fact that within the situation, it just looks like to me, it just seems appropriate, for their relationship. But as we begin to look at Rachel, it's just interesting that when we look at Laban and the things that he does, his daughter, his beloved daughter, she really carries these characteristics, that she gains from her father, that we see kind of emphasized with this parting interaction that we see with Laban and Jacob. So I'm going to go back up here now, and let's look at some here back at the first verse. We go up to Rachel. First of all, let's look at Rachel. Rachel. It means, her name means to journey. It also is a U, right? A U is like female sheep, right? And so it's interesting. It's interesting when we look at. Here, let me pull this up here because it's something that we are able to see here. When we look at Rachel here, let's see, H. 7354. Just make this a little bigger so we can see it here. I think I want to see. Hold on 1 second here. Oh, 7353 is what I want to see. The root here. If we look at this word here, which is the root and meaning of the Rachel, it is used, Rachel, this word here meaning a female sheep, which also what Rachel's actual name is, but it's used. Look at this here. It is used in a simile comparing the bride's teeth to the flock of white, clean ewes. And so it's interesting that Rachel, her name, even though it literally means ewe, it means ewe to kind of cause you to think about, what a ewe actually looks like. This white thing, right? It causes you to think about, as it says here, a bride's teeth to the flock of white. Laban means white, right? So when you think about Rachel, Laban, it's almost as if Laban, he names his daughter really after himself, right? In another way, right? He named her after the meaning of what his name is, right? It's not the same name, but the meaning of the name is the same as the meaning of his name, right? This is his beloved daughter. This is his favorite. You saying, "Oh, it's so funny." It's cracking me up. But the interesting thing that we see here is, as Daddy's little girl, he, not only did he pass his name on to her in terms of this whole thing with the color, the characteristics that he possesses, we see also in her. Okay? And so this is what we want to kind of think about here, because, when we look at Laban, when we look at Rachel, there's a interesting kind of connection that we see with Laban. With Rachel, this ewe, this white, right? And the father, who's Laban, white. Laban, we see even in the kind of parting of ways with Jacob, we see where he kind of gravitates to his carnality and his wantonness, right? Where he just wants to accumulate more and more from Jacob, right? He has within himself a lack that he wants to increase, right? And so it's interesting when we look at Rachel and her story, the main thing that we see when we deal with her is her lack. You know, she has a lack. She has a particular desire within herself. And for the most part, this is almost like her, her defining quality. Right? We see more in regards to Rachel that's connected with, her lack, her desire for a thing that she doesn't have. This is what we see about her for the most part. And so it's interesting that when we pick up from where we left off in terms of the birthing of the children of Jacob, where we got down to at the time it was 4 children from Leah. The score at this point was
4.
Leah 4, Rachel 0.
Oh my goodness.
Right? She's losing
Losing pretty bad.
horribly. But I think the problem is that she's thinking about it in this way. But we see what the results are. So I want to look at verse 1 here. It says Rachel envied her sister. She envied her sister. Let's look at that or something here. Let me find my cursor here. Let's look at this word here, which is kana, to be, to make, zealous, that is jealous or envious. To be envy, to be envious, to move to or provoke to jealous or jealousy, or to be zealous. And so when we think about this thing that she is, right? She is in fact envious, right? She is jealous of her sister. And so it's interesting when you think about jealousy. There is suspiciousness involved in jealousy. Suspiciousness. Jealousy creates a apprehensive rivalry between two peoples or multiple peoples, right? Uneasy, this is just a definition, uneasy through fear that another has withdrawn or may withdraw from one the affection of a person he or she loves, right? Or enjoys some good which he desires to obtain, right? Rachel feared that a closer connection would develop between Leah and Jacob because of the fact that he with her was having all these children and she was not. But the interesting thing about all of this is that even though Leah was in fact at this point having babies, 4 in fact, Rachel having none, in Jacob's mind Rachel was the favorite. He loved her the most. He never didn't love her the most. And so there was a reality. The reality being that Jacob loved Rachel. And that reality never changed. It never changed. But Rachel's delusion, she had a false belief. Rachel's delusion caused her to think otherwise. And so the whole time, this is the problem. This is her suspicion that she has within herself that Jacob loved her sister more. It's an interesting thing when you think about jealousy, where you in your mind can have an altered reality, this thing that's not real. It's interesting when we think about Numbers chapter 5, which deals with a man thinking that his wife is being unfaithful. Sometimes when they went through the this thing that they did, which he thought his wife was unfaithful, he takes her to the priest. The priest gets some dirt from the tabernacle, mixes it with some water, causes the woman to drink it, and if she's a lie, then her stomach rots. Right? But if she's not, nothing happens. And the whole thing was just a figment of the imagination of the jealous husband. Right? It's just a result of the suspicions that he has had, within himself that potentially, were created only in his mind. And were potentially not even in any way connected to reality. And so when we think about Jacob, the reality was that he loved Rachel. And as far as he was concerned, she was the favorite. She was his favorite. Rachel was interesting. She had an interesting life. She was the favorite of her father. That wasn't good enough for her. She was the favorite of her husband. That wasn't good enough for her. Never. It would be different if her and Leah's roles were reversed. Because we see with her sister where she wasn't the favorite of her father. And so she, at this point, it seems that she has a valid complex, I feel. She does. This is where she understands the fact that she was the unloved wife. She, rightfully so, feels a way because of the fact that this is an interesting thing when you think about this, because her situation being valid caused her to behave a particular way. And we know that it was valid. Scriptures tell us that Jacob loved Rachel and Leah was unloved, which we found out the actual word actually means or can be translated as hated. So in reality, her situation, actually was reality. But Rachel, she was unable to look at what was going on, and the same thing that caused her sister so much inner turmoil, that same, because of the relationship between Jacob and Rachel, she looked at the same thing and saw something totally different from the same situation. However it was that Leah was dealing with her relationship with Jacob, she looked at the one situation and it caused her so much problems and turmoil within herself. Rachel saw the exact same thing, which you would think would cause her to have an opposite reaction, but in fact, it didn't. Right? And so let's look at some things over here. Let's go over to, let's see here.
Yeah, let me find it.
Pretty girl issues. Right? She has some issues, boy. She definitely has some issues. That's for a matter of fact.
I mean, we didn't get there yet, but she never was satisfied.
She never was satisfied.
I mean, even when she got.
I mean, we could talk about the fact of her never being satisfied, even with just dealing with the idea that life caused for Leah to behave in a particular way, and that exact same life caused for Rachel to behave just like Leah. Meanwhile, from a reality perspective, she is in the opposite, in another place than Leah in terms of the affection of Jacob was directed towards Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at this. We want to talk about envy. Go to Sirach. 30. Look, read verse 20. 24.
Envy and wrath shorten the life, and carefulness bringeth age before the time.
It says these two things over here that it mentions shorten life. These are things that shorten life. Wrath, one of those things that shorten life, and envy. Right? If you're continually looking at someone else's situation and then judging your situation based on someone else's situation and comparing yourself to someone else, these verses over here are saying that this shortens your life. This causes your life to be shorter whenever your life is wrapped up in the life of somebody else, and your jealousy of them, is part of your situation. Hey, let's look at this. I want to look at this word here. Envy. I want to look at, let's see, as a noun. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Envy, a noun. Pain, uneasiness, mortification or discontent, excited by the sight of another's superiority or success, accompanied with some degree of hatred and malignity, and often or usually with a desire or an effort to depreciate the person. So when there's envy, I want to take away from your situation. Right? There is a desire and an effort in me to take away from your situation. You can't just shine over there. I'm jealous of your shine, and your shine causes me a degree of hatred, and I want to take away from that and diminish that in order to cause me contentment.
So I can feel better.
That sounds terrible. And Sirach over here is saying that this type of thought process causes your life to shorten. Let's also, envy springs, it says, from pride. Envy is a daughter of pride. Pride is the daddy of envy. Ambition or love mortified that another has obtained what one has a strong desire to possess. Interesting. And this, all of this is what it talks about when we look at Rachel. Rachel, she envied her sister. She looked at what her sister had, and she not only wanted it, but she hated her sister as a result of it. She had an uneasiness and a discontentment within herself against her sister based on the thing that she had, which was, among other things, these babies. Let's go over to Romans. Talking about envy. This thing that we see within Rachel that she got from her daddy, Laban, who raised her up to be just like him. So much so that she was named what?
I didn't know if the sound was Go ahead. Keep going.
She was named after her daddy from a characteristic standpoint. And he passed on, apparently, his characteristics onto his daughter. He taught her the ways of carnality. And we see the manifestation of that. Let's go over to Romans 1 and 28. First of all, let's look at back in the scriptures version. Start reading at verse 28.
And even as they did not think it worthwhile to possess the knowledge of Elohim, Elohim gave them over to a worthless mind to do what is improper. Having been filled with all unrighteousness, whoring, wickedness, greed, evil, filled with envy, murder, fighting, deceit, evil habit, whisperers.
Okay, hold on a second. So when we think about these unrighteous characteristics that it says that the Most High gave these people over to. The King James, I think it says, gave them over to a reprobate mind. These people who decided within themselves that they did not want to follow after the Most High. The Most High said, okay, fine. If you don't want to follow after me, I'm going to just let you not follow after me. I'm not going to call out unto you. I'm not going to draw you unto myself. I'm going to let you do what it is that you want to do. Mm-hmm. And so in that, we see that those ones, it says, were filled with all types of unrighteousness, whoring, wickedness, greed, evil, envy. Envy's part of the list, right? Envy is part of the list. Let's see what the Greek for it is, where it is, if it's similar to what we're thinking about over here. 29. Oh, sorry. Envy, ill will, jealousy, spite, envy, right? When we think about, again, envy, here, let's look at, I want to look at this here in the word study. It says, envy, jealousy, pain felt, and malignity conceived at the sight of excellence or happiness. Right? This is a disease, envy is. When I look at somebody else's happiness, it causes me pain. That's got to be a disease. There's got to be something wrong with with me hurting. Like it hurts me in order for me to even see someone else shine in their happiness. But this, as it says over here, is this thing that is connected with unrighteousness and a disconnection from the Most High. So when we look at this thing is, I would say, a form of covetousness. Envy is. Because I look at someone else's happiness, and part of the pain that it causes and that it creates inside of me is the fact that I don't have happiness. And I want their happiness. The fact that they have happiness causes me pain. I actually want their happiness. That's covetousness. Isn't it? Go ahead, put in the comments if you think it is or not. Covetousness is a strong or inordinate desire of obtaining and possessing some supposed good. Happiness is a supposed good, isn't it? And so if somebody else has happiness and I hate it that they have it because I don't have it, that in fact is covetousness. And so envy is a form of covetousness. Pride is the daddy of envy. And envy is a twin of covetousness. If pride had a baby and it was twins, those twins is covetousness and envy. What you think? Go ahead, put it in the comments what you think over there. Some of y'all 7 people that's here. Let's go over to Colossians. Because we just talking about Rachel and these characteristics that exist within her. And, we'll deal with what it is that we're able to learn from this, right? But let's keep on going here. Let's go to Colossians 3. Colossians 3, verse... Oh, wait on a second. We can't go past here. Hold on a second. I'm going too fast. Let's continue. Hold on. I want to read the rest of these verses over here. We stopped at 29. Start reading at verse 30. Read till the end there.
Slanderers, haters of Elohim.
These are all these people that have forsaken that have forsaken the ways of the Most High, and these are the characteristics that exist inside of them. Go ahead.
Insolent, proud, boasters, devisers of evil, disobedient to parents, without discernment, covenant breakers, unloving, unforgiving, ruthless.
This is like anti-Elohim. This is all anti-Messiah characteristics. These things here, all of these things. Okay, 32.
Who, though they know the righteousness of Elohim, that those who practice such deserve death, not only do the same, but also reprove of those who practice them.
Okay, very good. So there's no good thing connected to those that exhibit, that manifest these qualities, these things that it talks about: whoring, wickedness, greed, evil. But what we're dealing with specifically is envy. But speaking more about envy and its connection with covetousness, I want to go to Colossians. Read verse 5 through 7.
Therefore, Put to death your members which are on the earth, whoring, uncleanness, passion, evil desire, and greed of gain, which is adultery. Because of these, the wrath of Elohim is coming upon the sons of disobedience, in which you also once walked when you lived in them. But now also put off all these: displeasure, wrath, evil, blasphemy, filthy talk from your mouth.
Okay, so it's interesting when we think about a life in Messiah. A life in Messiah calls for us to behave in a particular way, for us to take on his characteristics, the things that we manifest through walking in the Ruach HaKodesh. It causes us to put on a particular way about ourselves, but also petitions for us to put off certain things. In verse 5, it says, therefore put to death your members. Mortify, therefore, your members. Make dead your members. Deprive your members of power, it says. Cause your members to be rendered impotent, is what that says. Destroy the strength of your members, is what that says right there. Subdue, in fact, your members. Because those things cause uncleanness. They cause passions. They cause greed of gain. And they cause evil desires, which is envy and covetousness. And those things are idolatry. Wow, it's interesting how all of these laws, all of these sins, they all run together, don't they? We look at these things. We talked about envy coming from pride, and we talked about covetousness being something that's akin to envy. And here, Colossians 3 and 5 is saying these things: whoring, uncleanness, passion, evil desire, which is covetousness, and greed of gain is idolatry. Those things, covetousness is idolatry. Covetousness is idolatry. That's crazy.
Idolatry.
Covetousness is idolatry, isn't it? That's what he said. Go ahead and put it in the comments if you think it is or if it isn't. James, let's look at James real quick. Because James is telling us something that we don't think about, but that this verse implies to us. But he just come around and say it. Chapter 1, verse 10. My fault. It's chapter 2, read verse 10 right there.
For whoever shall guard all the Torah and yet stumble in one point, he is guilty of all.
Interesting. There's an interesting connection when you deal with the Torah. Because not only do you find yourself in just a general sense of guilt when you break one of the commands, but these commands, as we see over here, are so overlapping. If you broke one, you're breaking multiple ones simultaneously. Okay? That's what it shows us over here. But let's look at this a little closer. Let's go over to Romans. And we still just talking about Rachel. We're talking about Rachel because she has this situation within herself that exemplifies envy. And as I said before, it's this characteristic that we see within her that is kind of overarching across her whole situation. Let's go to Romans chapter 6, verse 13. We saying that covetousness is idolatry. Read verse 13.
Neither present your members as instruments of unrighteousness to sin, but present yourselves to Elohim as being alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness to Elohim. For sin shall not rule over you, for you are not under the law, but under favor.
Okay, so we as followers of Messiah are obligated to live a particular way. Sin shall not rule over you, right? We cannot present our members as instruments of unrighteousness to sin because we have been, in fact, redeemed by Messiah. And the Most High is our Elohim. But keep on going here. Read verse 15.
What then?
Hold on. 15.
What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, under Torah, but under favor? Let it not be.
Go ahead.
Do you not know that to whom you present yourselves servants for obedience, you are servants of the one whom you obey, whether of sin to death or of obedience to righteousness?
Okay, that verse right there just told us that covetousness is idolatry. Read it again.
Do you not know that to whom you present yourselves servants for obedience, you are servants of the one whom you obey, whether of sin to death or of obedience to righteousness?
When we allow for our members to not be made dead, and when we allow for our members to be strengthened inside of us, when we allow for our flesh, our carnal mind, to rule and reign in our lives, we become servants then to our flesh. We've created another God called yourself, and we begin to worship it. We begin to serve it, and we begin to not serve the Most High. And so when we have envy, when we want someone else's joy for ourselves, and we covet their happiness and success and joy, we in fact become idolaters, because we're serving our self, we're serving our sin nature instead of the Almighty. What do 17? Keep on reading now. Let's do verse 17.
But thanks to Elohim that you were servants of sin, yes, you obeyed from
You were that. You were servants, like past tense. Keep on.
Yet you obeyed from the heart that form of teaching to which you were entrusted. And having been set free from sin, you became servants of righteousness. I speak as a man because of the weakness of your flesh. For even as you did present your members as servants of uncleanness and of lawlessness, resulting in lawlessness, so now present your members as servants of righteousness, resulting in set apartness. For when you were servants of sin, you were free from righteousness.
Okay, very good. So, looking at this, it helps for us to be able to think about and understand the fact that this thing called envy, which is a twin of covetousness, both all lead us to idolatry, which, of course, is something that is abominable to the Most High. And so when we think about this characteristic that we see in Rachel, envy, jealousy of her sister, right? This is certainly not something that we want to be participating in, right? To say the least. So let's go back over to Genesis chapter 30 and look at this some more. Because when we look at Rachel and we see that, she here is envious of her sister, she says to Yaakov, here, read this verse 1 again here.
And when Rachel saw that she bore Yaakov no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said to Yaakov, "Give me children, or else I am going to die."
Okay, we are able to see in Rachel her disconnection from reality. Her inability to have a baby is not a deathly disease. Like, that fact that she's not able to bear children don't make her die.
She's a little bit of a drama person. Like,
She said, I'm going to die.
that was dramatic.
And first of all, and then now she's saying, give me children or else I'm going to die. As if it's his fault.
She playing him.
He's clearly able to make babies at this point. That's obvious. So for her to make this, to have this unrealistic expectation of Yaakov over here, it continues to show us her disconnection from reality. She's not connected to reality. Give me children. First of all, the fact that he is somehow holding back something from her. First of all, but second of all, that if he don't give her this thing that he's supposedly holding back, then it's going to cause her death. And so there's a thing that she's doing over here that we're able to see. We don't even got to think about it. We're able to see what she's doing. She's not giving the Most High. She's not acknowledging the Most High's place in the matter. Let's look at Psalms. Book of Psalms 127. Read for us Psalms 127. Read verse 3.
Verse 3, look, children are an inheritance from Yahweh. The fruit of the womb is the reward.
The fruit of the womb is a reward from Yah. Children are the inheritance that come from Yahweh. Yahweh is the one that she need to be mad at. If she gonna be mad at somebody, she's sitting up here saying, "Give me children to Jacob." He trying to give her babies. He trying. He doing his part, and it's evident that it's self-evident that he's able, because he's making these babies with her sister and also these servants, right? And so she, in her inability to properly deal with reality, is now she's having this misplaced anger that she's giving towards him, and not understanding the truth that we see in verses like Deuteronomy 4 and say 39.
And you shall know today and shall recall to your heart that Yahweh himself is Elohim in the heavens above and on the earth beneath. There is none else.
The Most High, Yahweh, Almighty, He's Elohim. He is the Elohim of the heavens, and He is the Elohim of the earth. The things that go on in the heavens, He allows. The things that go on in the earth, He allows. In fact, it even said in Genesis, in the previous chapter, in chapter 29 and 31. Here, read this verse right here. 31.
31. And Yahweh saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb. But Rachel was barren.
Yahweh opened Leah's womb. And so if he's the opener and closer of wombs, if he opened Leah's, he must have closed Rachel's. If he opened one, he must have closed the other one. Didn't he? He closed her womb. He's the one who closed it. He's the opener and the closer of wombs. He's the giver of life. The Most High is the creator of life. He says where if it's going to be life or if there isn't going to be life.
Okay.
And so the Most High did it. And so what we need to understand is that it's something that Rachel, that she obviously didn't, is that the Most High is the one that is in control, not man. And we see that her flesh is the thing that is in full effect. Right? Her carnality is the thing that's in full effect. Her inability to be connected to those things which are spiritual is, these things are obvious. Her jealousy, envy, hatred, covetousness, idolatry. These things are all carnality, and these things all exemplify the flesh. And so when we think about, what we're able to see through Rachel, she is giving us a clear picture of carnality in our carnal mind. But not only that, kind of the effects of where our carnal mind takes us. It causes us to, have these thoughts that aren't really connected to reality. Because again, when we think about what she's doing over here in chapter 30 here, verse 2. Read verse 2 right there.
Verse 2. And Jacob's displeasure burned against Rachel, and he said...
This is causing Jacob anger. Because he understands what's going on. He understands the fact that the Most High is in control. He understands the fact that he isn't in control. He understands the fact that he's doing everything that he's able to do. And she is sitting up here not being connected to what's actually going on, reality. And he says what? What do he say?
Am I in the place of Elohim?
He's like, who am I? Am I the Almighty? Keep on.
Who was withheld from you the fruit of the womb, And she said, "See, my female servant Bilhah, go into her, and let her bear for me, and let me be built up from her as well."
Okay, so this is interesting, and it's a clear example of how when we operate in and according to the flesh, we're not actually connected to reality. She didn't hear nothing that Jacob says to her. Nothing that he said has an effect on her mind and what she's thinking. She's blaming Jacob. She's taking away the blame. She's taking away the power of the Most High and not taking that into consideration and saying it's your fault. You the one that's not giving me something, or maybe even there's something wrong with me, and so maybe you're all right, but there's something wrong with me. Here, take my female servant. Instead of saying, Most High, please open up my womb.
Yeah.
Like that's what she was supposed to say. Like she was supposed to go to the Most High and say, I know you're the one who's stopping it up, so please unstop it. But she looks to a carnal solution to the problem. She said to Jacob first, give me a child or else I'm going to die. But here, I guess the only way you're able to give me one is to give me one through my servant. It's an irrational response that's going to end up having the exact same result as what she already has. Because at the end of the day, she, in her own self, is still not able to do this particular thing, which is have a baby. Like she can have a servant. She can have a servant that can have a baby, but she can't have a baby.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. She can have a sister, and the sister have a baby, but I don't know what the difference at this point. I don't know what the difference between Leah and Bilhah is. What's the difference? The Bilhah is a servant, but it's not her. And so at the end of the day, she's able to look at Bilhah and say, I'm gonna become envious of her at some point as well. And even her response to it.
Keep positive.
Oh. Okay, so let's look over here at. I want to look at Rachel. When we look over here, when we look at the actual conversation that's going on, there's something that's wrong here. There's something that's wrong here. Rachel is stuck in her thoughts. It doesn't matter what's being said. She just needs the baby. It don't matter what reality is. She's not connected to reality. It don't matter what Jacob says to her. She's not even responding to what he's saying. She's going on with whatever it is that she already has in her mind. Never does she mention the Most High. But that's what Jacob brings up. Jacob says, who am I? I'm not Elohim. I'm not the opener and closer of your womb. But she's not responding to that. All she's responding to is, I need this baby. I need to have this baby. Here, just take this one. But in her delusional mind, is it me that I'm talking about her like this? Mm-hmm. Is it? In her delusional mind, she has this answer, which is her female servant, which don't have anything to do with, like, she was supposed to, when Jacob, in his displeasure that burns against her and that brings up the fact that he is not in the place of Elohim, and that he is the one that, if in fact what he's saying is true, that the Most High is the one that's withholding from her the fruit of her womb, then maybe she's not even supposed to have a baby right now. And maybe she's not supposed to even, is this surrogacy?
Mm-hmm. Almost surrogacy.
I guess as close as it could be. He's not giving it to her. So basically the Most High is not giving it to her, and she's saying, I'm going to have it anyway. And so she, instead of jumping, what she did do was jump into action. But what she was supposed to do was to go to the Father. She was supposed to go to the Father. Because by the time we get down to the son being born, it's interesting that, for a time, it's interesting when we look at this for a time, this is a victory for her. This is a supposed victory for her. She says, read verse 6 right there.
Verse 6, and Rachel said, Elohim has rightly ruled my case and has also heard my voice and given me a son. So she called his name Dan.
This is a victory for her, in a sense. But it has the exact, when you look at what's going on, it's the exact same thing, really. Like, she could really look to the sons, if she really thought about her actual position in the family. Jacob always only wanted her, actually. In fact, he never wanted the sister. And so anything else after that was just things that he acquired that he never wanted.
Never asked. He
never asked for it, never wanted, he always only wanted her. And so if she was ever able to accept that reality, I feel like her whole life is different, if that's the case. Because she's able to be loved by her. Why couldn't she just be happy with the love that was bestowed upon her by Jacob?
He wasn't good enough for her.
He wasn't good enough. But the thing that she is celebrating with the birth of Dan, and then also the birth of Naphtali after the fact, at its core is the exact same thing that's going on with Leah, and it's still a thing that is it still leaves her in the same exact place of not having a baby and these other people's having a baby with Jacob. And so this is why, even though when we look at her reaction to the birth of Dan, the birth of Naphtali, when it seems as if it's a victory for her, when we look at it from the perspective of reality, there's no difference between that and Leah, where it's still others giving birth to babies and her not having anything. And so the thing that she could be happy for with Bilhah, the thing that she could be happy for with Bilhah is the same reason why she's envying her sister Leah. So it's irrational. It don't make any sense for her to even have a form of happiness for the one and not for the other. Like it don't make any sense. Like the thing that you have hatred and animosity and envy for with your sister, you're able to celebrate that with your maidservant. It's the exact same thing.
It don't make any sense because it's
Put
kind
it in the comments. Put it in the comments.
It's just like it's coming from somebody else, and
It still is.
yeah,
So it's the exact same
not really
thing.
what she wanted.
So how can she be happy for the one and envious of the other?
Because the one came, she looked at it like,
I know, but that doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. She didn't.
We know it
wasn't
doesn't
that
make any
logical.
sense, right?
It wasn't that logical.
It's illogical. If you think it's logical, go ahead, put it in the comments.
It wasn't that logical.
I mean, if you think about it, back in the day, slaves, their children were taken off them all the time and given to other people. So in her mind, she might have been like, well, I'm just going to treat the child like it's mine.
Yeah. That's what she thought she was going to do.
That's what she thought she was going to do, but I don't know when she did it.
She never did it.
She never did it. She was never happy.
She wasn't happy. She wasn't happy when she got the one.
She was
child
never
that-
satisfied. She was never satisfied.
You making it down there?
And so I'm making it there. We get there.
That seems to be a common thread through history of, our wonderful ladies, wonderful women, a lot of them have a hard time, just being content where they are. People in general, not even saying women, people in general have a hard time, just being content.
Yes, and the common thread is carnality. Your flesh is always hungry. Your flesh is always hungry. There's nothing that you can do as a human being to cause for your flesh to stop being hungry. And so when we look at this thing that goes on inside of us, this carnality, where we want this, we have to have, nothing's good enough. We gotta keep on gaining these things, right? We gotta keep on getting. We gotta keep on receiving from the Most High, or from anything. We gotta just keep on getting. It doesn't matter how much you get when you're not trying to receive from the Most High. When you're not trying to receive from the Most High, but you're just trying to receive things in your flesh, that hole is never going to be filled. The want is never going to go away. It's always going to be desiring more and something. And so when we look over here at this back and forth thing that goes on, we see even now Leah she gets into the same thing too, because she's was having babies, and then for a time she wasn't, and then now these maidservants are, and now there's this battle, there's this this thing that's going on where the wives are just wanting more. She got a baby? Oh man, I need another baby.
Battle of the baby moms.
It's crazy. It's crazy, right? wait. This is the flesh is literally a bum. It's just out here begging. The flesh is out here shaking this cup, and the cup never gets filled up.
Never.
Like there's always something in there, and it's never enough that's in there. And so when we look at this wantonness, it can only be connected to the flesh and carnality. Let's see here what it says. According to the culture at the time, will the baby be Rachel or Bilhah, since she is maidservant, who will have parental rights? I understand the baby is not actually Rachel. Of course. The baby that she had was purposed for Rachel. Rachel wanted, this is just like when we think about, what happened with Sarah. She wanted for her, for this manifestation of the covenant to come to pass. And so they get Hagar involved to do that. Meanwhile, the Most High didn't want it to be that way, and so this is what they did. And so from a technical standpoint, the baby was was for Rachel. However, she wanted to be physically involved in the situation, right? And so even though from a technical standpoint, that baby from the maidservant was building her house, right? That's what it says over here, right? Look at verse 3.
And she said, "See my female servant Bilhah, go into her, and let her bear for me, and let me be built up from her as well."
Right? This is the building up of Rachel through her servant Bilhah, right? That builds her up. However, there's still a wanting that exists inside of her because she didn't literally, actually do it. So I'm saying that in her mind, if she was really kind of thinking about it from kind of a family, like a wholeness situation, there's children there, right? As the wife of Jacob, his other wives' children, they're your children, right? From a family perspective, right? But she's not looking at it like that. She's not thinking about it properly, even though she's saying the right things over in verse 3. And whenever Dan and Naphtali are even born, she's saying the right things. She's celebrating. She's happy, right? But, I'm saying she has a happy response. She still is desirous of this thing that she's not really getting from, the actual experience. All right, so let's drop down some. Let's look at so we see the back and forth with Bilhah, with Leah, with Zilpah, and the children that happen. And let's drop all the way down to, let's look at verse 22. Read again for us, verse 22 here.
And Elohim remembered Rachel, and Elohim listened to her and opened her womb.
Okay, now this is interesting here because we don't see this. We don't see in the scripture her going to the Father. But we see over here the father, it says Elohim listened, in fact, to her. So does she finally go to the father and speak to the father and petition to the father? Now, does she finally go to the giver of life and ask of him to open up her womb? And then he does it? I don't know, maybe. Because it's interesting. It's interesting that we have that here in verse 22 where it says Elohim not only remembers Rachel, he didn't forget about her. Right? And Elohim listened to her. And he opened her womb. He could have just told us at this point that he remembered her and he opened her womb. But we also have the added portion here of the fact that he listened to her. Does that somehow mean that she went finally to him and then now she opened her womb? I don't know. I don't know if it means that or not. That's just something to think about it. But interestingly enough, when we look at verse, read 23 and 24. Let me blow this up here.
And she conceived and bore a son, and said, Elohim has taken away my reproach. So she then called his name Joseph, and said, Yahweh has added to me another son.
Okay, very good. So it's interesting that now that when we look at to also think about the question that was asked in terms of this whole idea of these servants' children, she says over here that Yahweh added to me another son. Right? So she counts then the other ones, right? He added to me another son. Let me see. Let's see what this word here is.
Ode? Maybe ode?
Acher.
Oh, like after. Like achere.
Hinder, next, other.
Next.
Right? And so
Next.
this is something that's in addition to. When we look at this here, Yosef, right? Let's look at this word because I think that it says a lot.
It's just horrible.
This name Yosef. I have a Yosef, right? This word Yosef, interestingly enough, is the future tense of this word here, Yasaf. Right? So Yasaf is to add, augment, continue to do, add, right? The primitive root. But this word here, Yosef, is the future of that. So let him add in the future tense, which is interesting. Because when we think about Yosef, he already added.
He already added to her.
He added it already.
She wanted to keep going more.
She want more.
She couldn't just take what she got.
One wasn't enough. Yosef wasn't enough. You gave me Yosef, but I want more.
It was never enough.
She never was satisfied.
So when we think about Yosef and his name, it's not necessarily that Yahweh has added, but will you add more than what's already been added? A more kind of correct way to think about this, when you think about the naming of Yosef, is his name literally meaning that he will add, not that he already added. And so the thing that she receives, that she wanted the most, that she finally gets, is still not even enough for her. And so when we think about Rachel, she's just like her daddy. Her daddy had this servant for all these years, and he increased his life and so much. And so they lived together all those years, and he tended his sheep for all that time. And then when it was time for them to, he had everything that he
said,
asked for.
Because Jacob said, "You got so much more than when I first came here."
Yeah.
And God blessed you. So.
And then when it came time for Jacob to say, "I'm ready to walk away," he wasn't satisfied with what he already had.
He wanted more.
Laban said, "Yosef,
I need more.
will you add more to my situation?" Rachel is sitting up here. She's having all these problems just because she just can't have one baby. All she just want to have is just please, just open, just let my womb be open. It's been closed. I've been barren all of this time. Can I just get a baby? And then she get one, and her answer is,
"Give me some more.
I need more babies." Yosef.
Give me some more.
And she's confidently saying it like, he'll give me more. He will add. He will add. He will in fact add. But the thing that we see over here, this thing that we learn from Rachel is about being satisfied with what the Most High gives you. She's never satisfied. She's never able to be happy with what it is that the Most High bless her with. She's only able to have sadness and anger and hatred for what she doesn't have. But what about all the things that she does have? She don't even talk about those things. Who knows what they even are? Because she don't talk about those things. Let's look at look at Philippians 4. Start reading at verse 11.
Not that I speak concerning need, for I have learned to be content in whatever state I am. I know what it is to be humbled, and I know what it is to have in excess. In any and every situation I have learned both to be filled and to be hungry, both to have an excess and to be in need. I have strength to do all through Messiah who empowers me. Yet you did well and
just 13, sir. So we look at Paul over here. He's saying I had and I didn't have. But in all of those things, I'm able to still be happy with his situation regardless. So when you think about it from that perspective, it helps us to understand that it don't have nothing to do with having or not having. That's the root of the happiness. It don't got nothing to do with whether you have or you don't have, because he had and he didn't have. He was full and he was hungry. He had a lot and he had a little bit. He had times when he actually needed things and didn't have it, and he had an overabundance of things. And he was able, it said he learned to be content in whatever state that he was in. So he learned a valuable lesson that his ability to be satisfied and be content shouldn't be connected with what you have. Things that you have or you don't have. There's not a connection between satisfaction and contentment and the things that you have. What's it say over here? First Thessalonians 5. What's 18? What's verse 18 say?
In all circumstances, give thanks, for this is the desire of Elohim and Messiah Yeshua for you.
It's interesting that we see over here in circumstances italicized. The thought really is in everything. In everything, circumstances included, give thanks. That is the desire of Elohim and Messiah for you. So it don't matter what it is that you are in. Everything. What's this here? Let's see what this word means. If it really means this everything. Oh wait. All the forms of declension. Oh, all, any, every, whole, all manner of means, always, any, every, ever, whatsoever, whosoever, no matter what, give thanks. This is the desire. This is something that is desired of Elohim in Messiah for you. And so therefore, when we think about this idea of satisfaction, we think about this idea of, or Rachel's lack of satisfaction, the fact that she saw the abundance in someone else and coveted that and hated them for it, right? And became an idolater because of the fact that she allowed for her flesh to rule over her and lead her and guide her, gives us a picture and an understanding of, a reason why we need Messiah. Because outside of Messiah, this is the road that will so easily travel down. Right? Where our whole life situation can be can revolve around the idea of gaining things that you don't have. And seeing others be able to have those things, and then your happiness being connected to your lack, and as opposed to your happiness being connected to Messiah. There's always going to be somebody who's going to have things that you ain't got. And there's always going to be somebody who has things that you'll never be able to acquire. But the one thing that you are, in fact, able to acquire is a connection to Yeshua HaMashiach. And there's nothing that is able to separate you from the love of Messiah from those that are in Messiah. And so when we think about this idea of actually being in a relationship with Messiah, he is the only one that's able to fill this void that is within man, that we see over here, with Rachel, with the fact that she, this is a natural thing. It's not it's not unnatural for it to have that particular want in her life. But what takes it to that other limit where her husband actually tried to bring her back into some balance in her situation, where trying to describe to her that she needs to focus on the Almighty in order, for her wants and needs to be satisfied. Let's look at Proverbs 19. Proverbs 19, verse 23. What's that say?
The fear of Yahweh leads to life, and he remains satisfied. He is not visited by evil.
This right here says the fear of Yahweh leads to life. It leads to life when we're able to have a proper understanding of who the Most High is and a relationship with the Creator and Sustainer of all things. That person who fears Yahweh, he remains satisfied. It said he is not visited by evil. Your satisfaction has to be connected to and dependent upon your connection to the Most High.
I mean, because there's always going to be more that you can have, potentially.
Yeah, if we talk about things,
Potentially.
if we talk about things, you can never have all the things.
There's always going to be something that's out there that you don't have. And somebody's always going to have something better than you.
Always.
The bad part, the worst part is like when you have something, you have so much. There's a lot of people that have, families, but it's just not enough. They gotta, go and break up they family because something over on the other field looks a little greener. It's terrible. That emptiness that is never satisfied. That flesh. It can drive you to do the worst things for yourself.
Yeah, and we're able to look and pinpoint what that is. This fact that people are seeking for satisfaction outside of the actual place where actual satisfaction originates, which is the Most High. When we have that genuine relationship with the Almighty, we're able to actually experience life. It says that person remains satisfied.
That's how you know people ain't they're on the wrong path.
Yeah, because you're never satisfied.
Right.
Because it says over here, the fear of Yahweh tends to life, and that person, he that has the fear of Yahweh, shall abide satisfied. He remains satisfied.
I was just being made fun of. This is great. I was just being made fun of this week because of my, they perceive me being content and satisfied with me not having drive or like, oh, you gotta get, more, like, you gotta. I'm like, I'm good, like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, that, when you think about that, that thing never ends. Mm-hmm. There's always something more for you to get. There's always something else for you to attain. Mm-hmm. There's always a higher position somewhere. There's always something more for you to be doing. And, Paul talks about having, so it's not like he just didn't do anything. He did something in order to get. But when he didn't have, he still had the same frame of mind. And so it wasn't like he just wasn't doing anything. He was doing things. And sometimes he succeeds, and sometimes he didn't succeed. Sometimes he ate a whole bunch, and sometimes he didn't. But those different times and those different situations didn't affect his level of satisfaction, and I think that is the key. And so when we think about Rachel, where she was never able to be satisfied, she wasn't good with her sister having babies, in the family. She wasn't good with her maid servants having babies, literally for her. She wasn't satisfied with her own self having babies. She still wanted more. She was never able to be satisfied. But the answer to all of this, it just shows us that in our carnality, in our flesh, we're always wanting. We always want. And the Most High wants for us to be able to learn that not until we're able to make that a pure and genuine connection with Him can we truly be satisfied. I want to look at two more things here. Let's go over to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 8. Here, start reading at verse 10. Deuteronomy 8, verse 10.
Verse 10. Alright, verse 10. And you shall eat and be satisfied, and shall bless Yahweh your Elohim for the good land which He has given you. Be on guard lest you forget Yahweh your Elohim by not guarding His commands and His right rulings and His laws which I command you today. Lest you eat and shall be satisfied, and build lovely houses and shall dwell in them, and your herds and your flocks increase, and your silver and your gold are increased, and all that you have is increased. That your heart then becomes lifted up, and you forget Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the house of bondage, who led you through that great and awesome wilderness, fiery serpents and scorpions and thirst, where there was no water, who brought water for you out of the flinty rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers did not know, in order to humble you and to try you, to do you good in the end. And then you then shall say, in your heart my power and the strength of my hand have made for me this wealth. For you shall remember Yahweh your Elohim, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth, in order to establish His covenant which He swore to your fathers, as it is today. And it shall be if you by any means forget Yahweh your Elohim, and follow other mighty ones, and serve them and bow yourself to them, I have warned you this day that you shall certainly perish, like the nations which Yahweh is destroying before you, so you are to perish, because you did not obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim.
Okay, very good. So it's always important for us to actually understand where our satisfaction derives from. If we get up and we go and we do this or we do that, it's only because of the strength of the Most High that He gives us that makes it possible for us to be able to do the thing. And so we could never forget where our blessings actually come from. The scripture tells us that every good and perfect gift comes from above. This is something that Rachel wasn't able to understand. She was pointing and the blame all in the wrong situation. But we have to be able to understand that when we think about our connection to Messiah, our connection to Yeshua. If he says that he is the way, the truth, and the life, then that means that we're not able to find our way outside of Messiah. Because he said, I am the way. And so that means we're lost without Messiah. If he's the way and we don't got Messiah, then we ain't got the way then, right? Mm-hmm. That's what that means. This is just logical thinking. If he is the way and we don't have Messiah who is the way, then we're lost. So we need Messiah so that we're able to know the way to go. What road to follow. What path to take. If we're not connected to Messiah, we can never be going down the right street. We're always going down the wrong street if we don't have Messiah. It might seem like you're where you're supposed to be at, but you're not where you're supposed to be at because he's the way. So you can't find your way if you're not connected to the one who is the way. And so it don't matter what you have, what you think you need, your ability or inability to be able to receive or get or gain whatever it is that you want to get or try to achieve. If you're not connected to Messiah, you're going down the wrong street.
And you don't have truth. And you don't have life.
You don't have truth. If you think, if Messiah said, I am the truth, and you don't have Messiah, then what you got actually is a lie.
Right.
Whatever the opposite of truth is, that's what you got because he's the truth. Mm-hmm. So you might think that you have the truth. But if you don't have Messiah who is the truth, I don't know how you can have the truth. There's not this thing, well, there's truth over here and there's truth over here and I could get it however I get it. How? If he's the truth. He's the truth, so I'm lost. I'm in a lie. I'm living in a delusion like Raquel. Her life was wrapped up in these delusional thoughts.
She could have had a good life.
She could have, but she obviously had a terrible life because she couldn't understand where life came from. She was living a lie.
I wonder if she had ulcers.
I don't know, but she definitely had lots of stress. She definitely had lots of stress. What's it say here? It seems so basic, but in all the ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. That's what you're right. He'll direct your paths because he's the only one who knows which paths to go. You're going to get lost. You're lost already. You're going to remain lost if you don't come away from the lie and connect yourself to the one who is the way. He said, I am life. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And so you're literally dead if you don't have Messiah because he's the life. How can you have life without Messiah? And he is the life. How could we expect for Rachel's thoughts and things to be anything other than what they were? She exemplifies for us the epitome of carnality. And we, through Messiah, are able to overcome this issue that she was never able to overcome. Mm-hmm. This characteristic that she exemplifies, she exemplifies envy in the scriptures. If we was going to look in some type of a Bible dictionary that showed you characters that was connected with different characteristics and names Yeah. You guys are doing these character qualities with homeschool.
That would be a
The
good book.
picture for Envy, the character quality of Envy, the picture is Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Because she shows us that. She helps for us to understand that this idea that we're able to attain happiness through carnality, she gives us a perfect picture of this. But meanwhile, she also at the same time points us to Messiah. She helps for us to understand that I need Messiah. I, outside of Messiah, am going to continue to try to feed my flesh, and no matter how much I feed it, I'm never going to feed it the right things. Because I've never been connected to the source. And so we have to be able to get to a place where we're able to understand that there is no way without Messiah. There is no truth without Messiah. There is no life without Messiah. And so I just thought that it was interesting when we look at this particular Torah portion that we think about the examples that we see through the unfortunate example that we see through Rachel, but the light at the end of the tunnel actually is the fact that we're able to see that this flesh that we live in, it is in fact flawed. We have an appetite issue. However, there's a solution to the flaw, and that solution is Messiah. We have to be able to turn to Messiah and give our life over to the author and the finisher of our faith, who is in fact Yeshua HaMashiach, who brings us into life and truth and the way that we are to live our lives. Okay, so that being said, does anybody have any last questions, comments before we are done for today? Okay, very good. All right, so that being said, for now, we'll say Shabbat Shalom, y'all willing. We'll be back on next Shabbat to continue with our look at the triennial Torah portion. All right? Okay, all right. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.